again, my name is Tamara. I'm founder of Archiproba Studios. Well, my job started more than 20 years ago as an architect. So I was graduated from Moscow Architectural Institute in 2007. And after that, I worked for several big architectural studios in Moscow. And after I went to Holland, to the Netherlands, and have a practice in Erik van Gerard Associated Architects. So actually, this experience of international work totally transformed my perception of profession, because Rotterdam, as you know, is a lullaby of contemporary architecture. So the atmosphere and the vibe of the city is very inspiring, and actually it changed me a lot. So I was I was like 20 years old or something, so very young and very inspiring architect.
Yeah.
Yes, then I came back to Moscow and also worked for, again, different big studios for projects such as urban planning, because I was graduated from urban planning department. Yes, and the crucial thing happened, I think, in the year 2011. Maybe you heard that it was a very interesting initiative in Moscow. It was called Strelka School for Architecture, Media and Design. And it was an invited director, the OMA, and Rem Koolhaas was a director for that school in Moscow. Yes, and it was a research program with a duration like 8 months. And it has like different studios. And one of the studio was dedicated to the preservation. And I was lucky to be in this studio. And actually my professor of my studio was like Director Rem Koolhaas, and it was like a unique experience when I had, and like we were 7 students in his studio, and we had like an amazing opportunity to talk to him, to learn from him, so to receive the feedback of our research project. And so the preservation studio was mainly about questions how to deal with heritage, with tangible and intangible heritage. So we had different cases in Moscow mainly. So one student dealt with the heritage of Stalinism architecture, another with the modernism architecture, and I was working on the constructivism era architecture. It was a project dedicated to the mass housing of the 20s. Yes. And actually, I can maybe show you the result of this work, because like it was.
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
So that's the result of the research project. It was a magazine.
Yes.
It was published, like 100 copies. And so that's a photo of the gathering with students. So where we had a sessions with Rem and discussing projects. And it was like, it was unbelievable and unforgettable experience, I would say. Yes. So this magazine, the aim of this magazine was to popularize the avant-garde architecture as a movement for ordinary people. So it starts with the critical definition of the avant-garde. Then I talked about these worker settlements that appeared in Moscow. Yes, so at the moment it was like 25 and 26. Now I think there are less, because all of them are under demolishing. The conditions is very poor. Yes. So this like imaginary journey through the architectural layout of the constructivism architecture in Moscow, and then I focused my attention into this settlement called Usachovka, which actually is my native place where I was born and raised. And for me, it was super interesting to find the archive materials, to have an interview with inhabitants. So this my neighbors. So I had an interview with them. So many generations of neighbors are living in this place, because it's already like 100 years ago soon. So we had a very fancy photo shooting of each authentic details of this building. Well, it was very unusual experience. And of course, this work, this educational thing with Rem Koolhaas changed a lot my perception of professional architecture again.
Yes.
And yes, and then I think it happened more or less accidentally, but of course the roots are. I think the roots comes from this Strelka experience of this preservation studio. In 2014, one of my friend, he came to me and asked just as a friend to participate in a project. And lately, this project became my a visit card of my studio. It was a very interesting project. I can show you again the link. It was a renovation of the Moscow Telegraph building.
Oh yes, I think I've seen that in your profile.
Yes, so yes, it's a very unique space. It's an architectural monument built in 1927 by Rederberg. So it's a Russian architect who was like a pioneer. So this space, it was the first time in Moscow, the history of architecture, where the reinforced construction were used. And when we came to the space, so my friend told me that so the budget is limited, so we can't do like crazy things, but we can think about like the philosophical part of this project and just to understand what's the core of this building and how we can highlight the like architectural layout. And we decided with him that the most crucial in this work was to preserve and to show the people the authentic concrete, which I mentioned earlier, that it was like the first example of appearance like in industrial architecture in Moscow of this concrete beams. Yes, and this concrete was painted with like millions of layers of the paint, different kind of painting. So, and we just decided to clean it and to show the it's like a magical perspective. As you can see, the proportions are wonderful. Yes, so that's the project. It has I think about 1,000 square meters in total. In it is divided in different zones. So there was a zone for the events, the coffee shop, the co-working area, the wardrobe, the balcony. Yes, there are some, I think, more photos.
Well, what was that structure in the middle of the room? There seems to be like this gabled roof structure.
Yeah, it's a kiosk. You're talking about this? Yes. It's a kiosk. So we used to have like a coffee shop there.
Okay.
And they decided I don't know, to use it for a different purpose because the space was available for different events. You can rent it and you can just use it as you can for your purpose. Yes. And this area was it is a co-working area where you can pay and you just work. Different companies can come and do their work. Yes. So there was a mobile board, and it was easier to just separate place, to reconfigure it. Yes. And the glass soundproof partition between two areas, because this area was loud. It was about events, and the area about co-working. It was mostly about.
I've loved those photos. I've seen it in the website. Very nostalgic.
That's the original project of this building of the Moscow Telegraph, and our space is on this right side of the upper floor, so you can just see it from here. We also found out these archive photos, how to show how the people work in the space and to show the architecture. Well, it was fantastic, and yes, and after it was published firstly like at Arc Daily, and then it was just spread all over the world, all the media, like Domos and all of the main media, I don't know, I can't even just count them, but they published this project as a fresh. They said that it was like a fresh example for young architects how they can deal with historical layout. It was very cool. Yes, and
definitely.
And after the project, I think it helped me a lot to find the right clients. And during the last 10 years, I had some of very big refurbishment projects as well in Russia. Really. Yes. Maybe you can ask me something, and I will.
I think you seem to have a lot of renovation projects as well. I might even say that like your firm specializes on that. So you think you can associate it with the teachings of Rem Koolhaas?
Definitely. Yeah, I would say yes.
So what was the main influence of Rem Koolhaas? Was there any certain major points that you carried along through your practice?
Well, it's an interesting question, but I think that it's mostly about the approach of doing research before doing an architecture project. Yes. So it's a huge part that is dedicated to find out the archive materials, to estimate the authentic elements, to have an interview with people, with inhabitants, or with people who are going to operate with this building, how they perceive the local situation, what they want to achieve, like with the project. I think that the research part is crucial when you are working, when you have a case dealing with a historical building, and also I think that experiments, like in a good way, is also a very interesting thing when you can combine something what from the first sight seems to be not comparable to each other. Like in contrast, you can achieve a very attractive look and feel. Again, talking about historical buildings. Yes, and to attract a young generation with this exciting features. Features of contemporary architecture. Yeah.
So was the move to like revitalize and to like renovate these old buildings, was that like a crucial move of, let's say, Russia to like just preserve old buildings? Is it like something that they deem like very important?
No, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the big, I think, problem for the Russian architecture nowadays, even because, so I would say that, so what I did, all my cases, it's unique pieces of the whole percentage of the work, what going on in Russia, because at the moment, I would say in a good way how to say that now, but like there is no understanding between the architectural, so there's understanding between architectural society, but there is no understanding between like clients and on the government level that it is better to preserve than to ruin and rebuild. But unfortunately, in Russia, the way when they demolish totally this historical building and then they repeated it in a shape that it was done previously, like it's like a copycat, but for example, in a concrete way, and then just painted. Like for me, it has no sense, and so it's senseless. I mean, like what's the there is no value of this thing, but for Russia, it's unfortunately it's a common thing. And they so this thing costs a lot of money, as you understand, and they can make the money from this.
And to think they just rebuild it on the same way, so like what's the use instead of like preserving all those nostalgic buildings? So we could move on to your design values and philosophy. As mentioned in your website that you focus on the intimate core feelings and the timeless aesthetics, as opposed to this practicality and what's the contemporary and what's popular at that time. So perhaps you could tell us more about this, your methodology in designing.
To be honest, if you look through our website, you saw that we did different projects, not only historical, but like all the restaurants in Moscow, and the shops and offices in London. And the stylistic can be different, so it depends on the client's request.
Yes.
And we don't like to repeat every time. So for us, it's a big challenge to create a new visuality. Yes, and I also want to show you
sure.
a project which was at the beginning when the client came to us. It wasn't an exciting at all, but at the end, so this project actually now.
Oh yes,
it's amazing. Yes. So this is a unique place. It's a village in the mountains of the South Dagestan. So it's Russia, but it's very, very far from the capital city of Dagestan called Makhachkala. So it's already in the border with the Azerbaijan country. And so when we came, the client's brief was to create, I would say, an atmosphere for village people where they can study, where they can inspire, and they can develop their skills, their consciousness, and just it's not a school. So it's a kind of center where they have different kind of laboratories, any kind. They do media, they do robotics, they do courses, English courses, so culinary courses, everything. Yes, and the space was located. Yes, that's the picture of the area where it's located. Yes, it's fantastic.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes. So it is surrounded by the apple garden, and it has like three main elements on the territory, which are totally different. Like I would say that this three part of architecture, it illustrates the history of architecture. I would say like this, because, for example, here you can see this building. It was built recently, about like 20 years ago, but it was built in the stylistic of traditional Dagestan architecture, made of limestone, which is local stone, and it has like all these features. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like very traditional features for like Dagestan architecture. Yes, and so we tuned this building a little bit. So we put here the glass windows to open the view of the pictures to view for the landscape, and we built, I would say, a very modern pavilion. So it's the glass and the metal. Yes, this is another photo just to show you how it is. I have not actually described this, but you can see, how it's inspired. Yes, this pavilion actually shows to people and kids mainly that there is like a minimalistic, would say, architecture, which industrial, let's say, architecture, which deals mostly with the construction, with the form, with the materials, and at the same time it could create a very cozy space to be inside, and the outside also can wrap the inner space. Yes. So inner and outer interacts with each other at the same time. So this view, another view, it has an open amphitheater for people, for kids to sit outside, to work, to have like sessions, reading books and walking around. So I would say it's another space to participate, interact with each other. That's the view of the lectoriums, where all the main events happens. Also, they have an observatory, like with the very modern equipment. So they watch the stars and they learn about more about all the astronomical things.
Mhm.
Yes, and on the right side, you can see a small kind of house. It's called Sakля. So this is the ancient example of Dagestan architecture, like where they all generation. It was built from wood and a kind of special stucco. Yes.
Yes.
So in this case, so this project shows like four generation, like no three, I think, generation of the architecture, and the kids are going through and just they inspired. So it totally transforms their consciousness, which was the
That's
main
nice.
part. Yes,
Yeah.
how all this could live together in one place. But you can see these pieces are so different from each other, but at the same time they can live together and they can combine the whole picture. This project.
Yes, that's nice.
Yes. So I would, that's the pictures of the inner space. It's quite calm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's lessons rooms. It's quite calm, but through these windows, this was the main purpose. Through these windows, you can see this landscape, mountain landscape, and it can, somehow to support you and maintain your state in the mood in a good way. Yes, it's
yeah. I have seen like yes, Maddie.
Yeah, can you explain a bit about the challenges of combining this modernist industrial design with the traditional design? And you mentioned that your client didn't want this at first, so there was any special challenges merging these two together?
No. Actually, the client he wasn't against. He supports all these ideas. I would say that the main challenge during this project was the logistics of bringing all these materials to this village, which are like 8 hours from the city.
That's far.
It's super far, and although this architecture construction looks very simple, it requires a lot of like materials, all the junctions, all the things that was quite difficult to implement in the local conditions. And also this project has, we can see in this photo, but it has on the top of the roof, there are sun batteries. The full roof is covered by sun batteries.
Okay. Solar batteries. Yeah.
Sorry. And unfortunately, there's no photo here, but yes. And this energy provides partly provides the center to use this energy to use through the building, which is also an interesting thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the people of this village still live the traditional way, or they are completely adopt to this modern lifestyle?
I think that they are very inspiring and exciting about this, let's say, new kind of architecture, and they're not against at all. I would say, because lots of them love the space. They come like every day for the events, spend their free time there. But of course, the majority of the people, they live in the traditional houses which is from the local region of this area. Yes, but so it's a kind of cultural center that can be different and can inspire at the same time. But I would say also, I would repeat this, that in this project, because of the reason that you mentioned earlier, we put all kind of typology of architecture to all the people, like it's from ancient periods, it's more or less the modern period, and this like super modern. And it is in a very gentle way. So just as a kind of an experiment in a good way, just to show the people that they can live together in a very like soft and gentle way. Why not?